President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky, EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas. Statement by the President of Ukraine.
Good afternoon, dear attendees, dear journalists. And today we have a High Representative. Indeed, we are very happy to see Kaja Kallas in Ukraine, in Kyiv, as well as her colleagues. Thank you for your support. And indeed, you have accomplished a lot and in this position as well. We are very grateful for this. We discussed important, probably the most important issues and challenges. First of all, we discussed energy and we expect strong decisions from the European Union. We have some strong solutions. We have already agreed with some leaders separately and we expect separately from the European Union. Secondly, we discussed the 19th package of sanctions. And here we are really waiting for a positive decision to approach. The sanctions package is important and in principle, as soon as the leaders finish working on the 19th package, we can frankly say that this is a strong pressure on Russia, so we all immediately start working on the 20th package. We also discussed frozen Russian assets and there is definitely progress here. We are waiting for the relevant steps to be finalized. We have discussed an application like SAFE in detail. It is important to us. We are grateful to the European Union for the birth of such a program. 150 billion. The only thing that Ukraine wants more specifics, is what exactly Ukraine can count on. We discussed Ukraine's path to the European Union, the opening of clusters. We reaffirm that technically at the end of this month, early next month on our side, we will be ready with all 6 clusters on our side. There are questions. We understand that there are some representatives who are blocking it for now, but this is a political blocking and we need to work with it. We are also expecting additional artillery shells. I won't go into details here. And a very important signal that Ms. Kaja Kallas brought is regarding the special tribunal. That there is a decision to allocate money from the European Union. This is important. That is, the question is important. It shows that we are talking about justice and there are already practical steps, not just calls for it. You are welcome.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here, again in Ukraine. Ukraine is in our hearts and in our minds. And we, as the European Union, support you in different directions. Politically, financially, and militarily. Ukrainian defense is European defense. Therefore, we are working on the following packages in order to help you with your military needs. In terms of political support, we are working on the 19th package of sanctions in order to put more pressure on Russia to end this war. The Russian economy is already weak, and we are still weakening it with our sanctions so that they finally stop financing this war. Of course, winter is coming, and we see that Russia has increased attacks on civilian infrastructure in order to increase the suffering of Ukrainians, before the onset of winter, during the winter. The European Union is ready to help in order to repair critical infrastructure, especially energy infrastructure. And we are also preparing a support package. You also mentioned the special tribunal. This is very important, because there can be no just peace without accountability, without responsibility. And we are working hard to punish the crime of aggression. And the member states of the European Union also plan to provide financial support so that appropriate work can begin, because without responsibility there can be no just and lasting peace. And finally, what you were talking about, joining the European Union. Ukraine's future in Europe is absolutely clear. Ukraine has done a lot of work on its part to show the results of its achievements and fulfill the conditions. For our part, we are also ready to move forward with the accession process in order to show, to give hope to Ukrainians. And finally, in terms of funding, the needs are enormous, and we need to support Ukraine so that Ukraine can defend itself. And so that we do not have to make large investments in the restoration of critical infrastructure in the future. And it is very important to use frozen assets for these loans for recovery. And we, on our part, prepared this scheme of so-called reparation loans. And we hope that it will work and Ukraine will be able to use the funding for its current needs. This work is ongoing, but we hope we can get this work done quickly.
The first question, please, is from the TV channel We're Ukraine.
Thank you for the opportunity. Alina Chernyakova, We Are Ukraine, TV channel. Mr. President, the first question for you. You had 2 conversations with President Trump in 2 days. Now our Ukrainian delegation is already in the States. Do you plan to join them because such information has already appeared in the media? The first question is, did you receive such an invitation from the President of the United States? And if yes, what decisions do you expect from this meeting? Tomahawks, air defense, maybe something else? And my second question to Ms. Kallas. First of all, thank you for your support. And as you pointed out today, Moscow must pay for this war, not the taxpayers of the European Union. Therefore, my question will be about the 19th sanctions package. We know that Hungary and Slovakia are now trying to delay the adoption of this package. And so my question is, does this mean that this decision will not be made at the summit because of their opposition? Do you have any scenario for overcoming this veto? Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. We had 2 conversations with President Trump. We discussed, in principle, the issues that you mentioned. We discussed Russian attacks on our energy sector and civilian infrastructure. We discussed air defense issues, energy issues. This is a challenge, that's understandable. We also talked about Ukraine's new long-range capabilities, and we talked about this with him in detail. One call was not enough for us. We agreed that the next day, Sunday, we would talk to him in a broader circle and discuss in greater detail those challenges and what we want and expect from the United States of America, where we see their support. We discussed the battlefield. It coincides that nothing works out in Russia. We discussed some issues so sensitive, and this conversation was not enough for us, although it was substantive. The team has already left. Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko, head of the office Andriy Yermak, chairman of the National Security and Defense Council Rustam Umarov, and some representatives of our diplomatic sector. They left. There will be several meetings. I will meet with President Trump in Washington this week. I think we need to discuss the sequence of steps that I want to propose to the President.
Thank you for your question. You know, regarding the 19th sanctions package. Each time we had difficulties, because we have 27 states, 27 different democracies. And so discussions are ongoing. We are trying to get a result before the EU summit, which will take place next week. But even if we can't do it next week, the work continues. And I am positive that in the end we will have a result and decisions the same as it was before.
Question, please, The New York Times.
The New York Times, thank you for answering these questions. President Zelensky, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your meeting with President Trump. When will this meeting take place? What will you ask for and what things can we expect to come out of this meeting? And Ms. Kallas, I'm curious, what is your view on the American role now and how they can continue to support it?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I hope that I will have the opportunity to come to Washington and meet with Mr. President on Friday. And of course, I have some other meetings that are also important to me. Some military companies that are important. Can't share details about this. And also certain meetings with senators and congressmen. The main topic of air defense. And by the way, I will also have a meeting with energy companies. This was necessary, and it was a proposal from Mr. President. I will have meetings with certain companies because there are certain needs that are needed now due to different formats of strikes. Not even the strikes that Russia has already carried out. You have to prepare in any case, so this will be helpful. The main topics are air defense and our long-range capabilities to put pressure on Russia.
It is clear that we all want this war to end. Ukraine wants this war to end. Europeans want this war to end. America wants this war to end. The only ones who don't want this war to end are Russia. Therefore, our call to all allies is to help Ukraine militarily so that they can defend themselves and stop Russian aggression. Our call to everyone is to join the sanctions, to put pressure on Russia, so that they run out of means to wage this war, so that this war can end.
Question, please, Reuters.
Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity. You always stress that both the weapon model and the quantity supplied are crucial. Regarding Tomahawks, how many would we ideally want, not how many we are given or even how many we request? And the second question is also how will we finance it? We expect that we will be able to finance this through a reparations loan, at the expense of Russian frozen assets, or through the Pearl mechanism, or through our mega deal with US. What are the options here? Another question for the High Representative. You said that the EU welcomes all ways to strengthen Ukraine. This includes Tomahawks. If yes, are you willing to finance these weapons through Russian frozen assets?
It's too early to talk about the possibilities. Although, frankly, I shared our vision with President Trump already. But some of these things are probably not for a phone conversation. Therefore, we will meet him. And the others. How to finance? You are absolutely right, we have these three so far, they are not bad options. One option is the NATO Pearl program. We work through it, NATO works, NATO purchases weapons of various kinds from America with its own money and then they give us what we need. Probably, NATO can buy some additional weapons for itself. Yes, but I think we can definitely use this tool. The second is a separate story. We can directly through mega deal. This is a big story, we still have to get to it. Although there are some things that are in mega deal, we raise the relevant issue in principle. And what else?
Frozen assets.
Yes, frozen assets are definitely a good option. But everything still needs to be resolved there. So far, in principle, most leaders have a positive view of this mechanism. But this is if it is initially a political decision. You know how it is in politics. It happens first a political decision and then the loading of all other mechanisms. And here we need to solve a little, in my opinion, we can solve a little faster.
Thank you very much for your question. Obviously, Ukraine has military needs, and Ukraine knows these needs best. Whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Tomahawks, any capability, whatever you name it. Therefore, it is Ukraine that must say what it needs. For our part, we are trying to help Ukraine with its needs. And that is why we are discussing various initiatives on how we can help Ukraine. As for frozen assets, this reparations loan, which relies on frozen assets, it means that Russia must pay for the destruction it has caused to Ukraine. And so, again, it is up to Ukraine to decide how to use this money. Please, last question. Congratulations. This is Bloomberg. Mr. President, congratulations. Your country is in a difficult situation when it comes to energy. I would like to ask, what exactly do you need from the European Union in terms of energy? What are you planning to get for the winter? And you mentioned 100 million today. What are you going to do with these funds?
Thank you very much for this question. We expect electrical problems. Perhaps 1 or 2 attacks will require importing electricity. And we always take advantage of this opportunity during winter. And this opportunity is open to us. This is very important, this is the first thing. And second, they are also attacking our gas storage facilities. They are attacking the water supply and our gas infrastructure in general. Therefore, we started talking about gas imports. We have our estimates of what we might need, but it's mostly about funds. Today, as of now, gas is not a problem. The problem is to have enough money to buy this gas. We understand where you can buy it. We know what the price is. We have partners who are ready to supply and are not asking for funds right now. These are, for example, our Norwegian partners, our partners from the European Union. We are counting on them. And it can also be representatives of the Middle East. We also relied on these relationships last winter. We understand where to buy gas, but again the question is where to get enough money, but we will succeed.
The first aspect of this is to help Ukraine defend itself. Because if Ukraine can defend itself, then critical infrastructure will not be destroyed. This is the first thing we have to work on. The second is that our experts, our colleagues who work in the energy sector, assess what Ukraine needs in order to repair and protect its infrastructure, so that people have warmth and water, and so that people can survive the winter. And this work will be completed soon.
Thanks.
Колеги, зараз 18.